Well, we move on to the final segment of this afternoon's broadcast on the Iftar Drive before we hand you over to Molana Yunus Kawanga, who will take you through to the time of Iftar in Johannesburg. The time being 18:29, 6:29 p.m. Iftar in Johannesburg this evening, and this brings to an end the 12th day of Ramadan, the 12th day of fasting. But while all of this is playing on, the treachery of this Zionist entity still continues, and we've learned about more Palestinians being wounded by artillery shelling in the southern Gaza Strip once again by Israel, and they're firing into refugee camps in central Rafah and also in the other parts of Deir al-Bala as well in central Gaza, and many people who have been displaced. And again, we see that even in Khan Yunis, where Israel occupation army is now firing towards their tents as well. Now, all of those comes at a time, and that's why we are raising the question: is it about ceasefire talks, or are we seeing more bloodshed? Because this treachery, this hypocrisy of this Zionist entity knows no bounds. On the one hand, it's saying that it is negotiating in Doha. At the same time, it is bombing in Gaza, and it is still continuing with all its atrocities in the West Bank and also in Jerusalem. Joining us, alhamdulillah, once again this afternoon out of Jenin is journalist Osama Nazzal. Brother Osama, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome and jazakallah for your time.
وعليكم السلام رمضان كريم.
Yes, we've been talking about the treachery of this Zionist occupying entity, and it knows absolutely no limits. And the point we're making, Osama, is on the one side, they're saying they are negotiating in Doha. On the other hand, they are still killing people. They are still bombing. They are still going bombing in Gaza. They are injuring people. And we know what is taking place in your part of the world, in Jenin and the West Bank.
Yes, without any doubt that the Israeli Zionist regime is continuing its genocidal campaign, that it did not stop even for a minute. Yes, they signed or they agreed to the ceasefire deal, but they were not committed to that deal. And until now, since the day this deal was announced, Israel killed over 100 Palestinians just in the Gaza Strip and injured hundreds others, apart from what's happening here in the occupied West Bank, which is all occupied Palestinian territories, as there is no difference at all between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So the Israeli killing machine has never stopped. And we all noticed today the report issued by the United Nations that found Israel guilty of genocidal crimes and of crimes against women and girls, mainly in Gaza. Israel is blocking the Gaza Strip for the 12 days, as we all know that they allowed access of humanitarian aid at the start of the ceasefire deal, but after that, Israel decided to block the Gaza Strip, and the people during this holy fasting month of Ramadan in Gaza are having no food, no water, no electricity, nothing at all. So, talking about ceasefire and killing the people by starving them and by banning them from getting to clean water and water for washing and for cleanliness, this does not make change. So Israel is using all methods and all approaches of killing and murdering the Palestinians, whether starvation or rockets and bombs.
Yes, Usama, but I'm sure we are not surprised of this treachery of the Zionist occupier, because they've got a history of going against their word, making about turns, not sticking to agreements, to treaties, peace treaties. And we've seen it in the past. So the past 7 decades or over 7 decades, we've seen this treachery over and over again. And we're not surprised where on the one hand, they pretend that they are taking part in peace talks. and on the other hand, they still continue with their agenda.
Yeah, betrayal is part of the character of the Israeli occupation regime. And that is nothing new to this regime, because when the United Nations recognized the existence of the colonial power of Israel as a state, that recognition was on the condition of recognizing the right of the Palestinian people, mainly the right of the Palestinian refugees to return, and to recognize the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. Israel got the recognition of the United Nations and reneged on all its promises and all its commitments, and did not recognize the right of the Palestinian people either to return or to self-determination. And it continued its genocidal and ethnic cleansing policies against the Palestinians for 76 years. And we see the result of that on the ground today. We see how Gaza is fully demolished. As I said before, the people are searching for food to break their fast in the holy month of Ramadan, and they don't find it. They don't find even the water. They don't find even a roof to put their heads under. Everything is demolished in Gaza. And here in the occupied West Bank, mainly Jenin, where I'm speaking from, you know that Israel started its campaign since 50 days against the people in this part of occupied Palestine, destroying the water and communications, electricity networks, all of the infrastructure. If you come and see the roads of the Palestinian towns and cities and refugee camps today, you get surprised because of the big damage happening to them by the Israeli tanks and the Israeli bulldozers. So yes, that is the policy of Israel, ethnic cleansing. Israel doesn't want to see any Palestinian in Palestine, and it is working in order to achieve that.
Yes, and as you correctly pointed out, Osama, you talk about betrayal. Betrayal is in their DNA. It's actually ingrained in them that the world can say what they want to. We will tell the world whatever we want to as well. But at the end of the day, we know what agenda we want to play out. Now, I just want to talk about knowing that this Zionist occupier has got a history of betrayal. Why? Why do people still take them in their confidence to negotiate? Like, for example, we know that the talks are taking place in Doha between Qatar and Egypt, and again, just taking a country and a nation that is so deep rooted in not sticking to their words, sticking to their promises, yet taking them in their confidence and still attempting to negotiate with them, Osama. Why is that the case?
Yeah, sorry to say that this is the situation and the status of the weak party, and the Arab countries are not in a good situation these days, as we see how, for example, Iraq is very tired of the civil war and of the repercussions of the American occupation for that important Arab country. If we look at Syria, we see the situation of the people of Syria, how it is torn and worn because of the civil war and because of what has been happening there since 2011. We saw how Israel destroyed Lebanon and how the people of Lebanon are facing big economic and humanitarian disaster these days. So the Arab nation is not, and the Muslim nation is not living in a good situation that allows it to defy the American and European hegemony, because Israel is not standing alone in this region, bombarding the Palestinians, the Lebanese, and the Syrians. As you know, that part of southern Syria today is under Israeli occupation. Without the American support and the Western government support, Israel won't have the capacity to do that. So these negotiations, from my personal point of view, are taking place because of the American pressure and the American hegemony, and because of the European position and the lack of support that the Palestinians have from their Arab and Muslim brothers. Of course, we hear a lot of statements every day. I told you about the report by the United Nations. Uh, uh, Israel is condemned all the time, but when it comes to action, to tangible steps on the ground in support of the Palestinians, we don't see that. You know that Rafah crossing is closed and won't open without having a permission from Israel. That is the disaster situation we have.
Yes, Osama, in fact, what you're saying is so true, and I hear what you're saying, where the Arab world negotiating from a position of weakness, and that is actually allowing this Zionist occupier to act with impunity, and we've seen it happening over and over again, non-stop and relentless. Just your thoughts, Osama, on what came out of the Cairo summit. Is there anything substantial that stands out for you?
Uh, and our viewers and listeners may be knowing that when the Palestinians were besieged in 1982 in Beirut and Israel committed Sabra and Shatila massacre and killed thousands of Palestinian women and children at that time, we did see nothing from the Arab summits at that time. What they planned was getting the Palestinian revolution out of Beirut to Tunisia and keeping the Palestinians away from the Lebanese-Palestinian border. During the first Intifada, the Palestinian people suffered much, and all that we heard from the Arab summits only condemnation and the statements. During the second Intifada and the Israeli desecration of the Holy Mosque of Al-Aqsa in occupied Jerusalem, only statements. And we remember when late Palestinian President Yasser Arafat was besieged in his small office in the city of Ramallah, he did not receive any concrete support from the Arab governments and the Arab summit. And the situation today is not different from the past, but even worse. We all see how Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, killing tens of thousands of Palestinians, destroying the whole nation of Palestine in Gaza. And the Arabs don't have the decision to open the crossing in order to access bread, tomatoes, and potatoes to the Palestinians who are hungry in Gaza. So what should we expect from such summits and such official meetings?
Yes, and just finally, I just need your thoughts on. I know Mahmoud Abbas wasn't too happy about Hamas talking to the Americans, and apparently there was some discussions that had taken place between the Americans and Hamas. And again, he wasn't happy and talking about how this impacts on the unity of the people of Palestine to negotiate, as one voice, as a united voice. And it does appear as if the PA, it hasn't gone down very well with the Palestinian Authority, the mere fact that Hamas has been talking directly to the Americans.
Yes. First, with regard to the negotiating channel that was revealed between the American envoy and the Hamas movement in Qatar, this was really a surprise to many people around the world and even to the Israeli occupation government, because while the American President Donald Trump was warning all of Gaza, not only Hamas, all the Palestinians in Gaza, unless they release the captives of Israel, the gates of hell would break out. And he said that all the members of Hamas are going to be dead if they don't release all of the hostages, as he said, together. But of surprise, there was American negotiating channel, direct talks with Hamas movement. Now, what is important here? What is the aim of these negotiations? Are the Americans recognizing now the suffering of the Palestinian people, the catastrophe that the Palestinian people are going through? Or the aim of these negotiations is just to secure the release of the Israeli captives in Gaza and keep Gaza under fire once again and under the Israeli siege? That is one point. Concerning the Palestinian internal situation, I think it hurts every Palestinian that Fatah and Hamas have been talking about national reconciliation since 2007, and until this moment, they have not achieved that. I think that the divide, the political divide, and I'm not talking here about the Palestinian divide because the Palestinian people are one people, and the people in the West Bank are very much tired of what's happening to their brothers and sisters in Gaza. We are one people and one land. But when it comes to the political level and to the partisan issue, the Palestinians are disappointed by the failure of the political parties, mainly Hamas and Fatah, to come together and to defy the challenges that the Palestinians are facing hand in hand. So, yes, it is a deep wound. It is an issue that all the Palestinian people are complaining about, and all the Palestinian people were pressing both parties to sit together and settle their political problems, because the situation that the people of Palestine are going through requires even more than the Palestinian unity. It requires Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim unity, because we have a very, very dangerous situation. We are talking about ethnic cleansing, genocide, and expulsion of our people.
Well, so much, Jazakallah khair, and so much for that. And as always, we appreciate you taking time out with us right here on Salam Media. And it's always wonderful, wonderful engaging with you and, getting your views as you unpack these developments. And once again, we wish you well for the balance of the month of Ramadan, inshallah. And hope that we will be able to touch base soon again. But for now, all the best to you, my brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Ramadan Kareem.
Osama Nazzal joining us out of Jenin this afternoon. And once again, very, very interesting discussion. And as we will be doing throughout the month of Ramadan, we will not be taking our eye off the ball. We will not be taking our eye off Palestine. We will continue as we do on the Voices from Palestine, our PSA segment on a daily basis, but also any other important issues, breaking issues that need to be brought to the attention of our listeners and our viewers right here on Salam Media. And for myself, it's been an absolute pleasure being in your company on the Iftar Drive. And I'm going to be signing off. And next up, you will be joined by Maulana Yunus Kawanga, who will take you through to that spiritual moment when we raise our hands, the last few minutes before Iftar, when the sun goes down. When we raise our hands, we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we end this day of fasting. And it is a spiritual time, it is a blessed time when du'as are accepted. So please let us continue making dua for ourselves, our families, our loved ones, our communities, our country, our beloved ummah, and particularly those who are suffering untold hardships right across the entire world, and our brothers and sisters out in Palestine. And with that, I'm signing off from myself and the rest of the team until we meet tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.